But if you want to score, better head over to FanDuel.com/UCSS right now. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook, and right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's literally no better time to get in on the action than right now. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL, an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And you could become the next Jacob Ross, who won $200 on a $10 bet on a 4-part same-game parlay on the Browns-Seahawks game. He had Njoku anytime touchdown score, Amari Cooper over 50 yards, Njoku over 40 yards, and the Browns with an alternate spread of 6.5. And he made all four of those things come true, turned $10 into $200. So you can become the next Jacob Ross if you bet with FanDuel as well. Guys, as we get ready for Arizona, something the Cardinals have done a lot throughout this season is run the read option. It's been a prominent part of their offense. Head coach Jonathan Gannon comes from Philadelphia, where that had been a prominent part of their offense. And so far this season, that is the one thing the Browns have struggled to stop. I went back and looked at 2 games in particular to which teams used the read option very effectively. Against Baltimore, and you can take this full, Steve, the Ravens ran 6 to 7. It depends on how you...
You mean the Cardinals?
No, we'll get to the Cardinals. The Ravens against the Browns. They ran the read option... This is me tracking. If you want to tell me one of them was a read option and not a design read, okay. But they scored 2 touchdowns off at Lamar. Both his rushing touchdowns came off a motion, a fake handoff, and Lamar scooting into the end zone. Against the Colts, Gardner Minshew is not known as a mobile quarterback. Torched him. 5 carries, 42 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Arizona, if you go through and look, you watch any of their games, it's a prominent part of their offense. I only went back and tracked the Seattle game just because I knew they scored a read option touchdown in that game. And in that game, Josh Dobbs, who is no longer their quarterback, had 4 carries on read option plays specifically for 43 yards and a touchdown. That's 10.5 yards a carry. So, Tyvis, I'm not going to say where you played football. We all know you played football at high levels. What adjustments can the Browns make this weekend to try and slow down that part of Arizona's offense?
Don't let Bull talk you out of the stuff, okay? First of all, if you can say how you want to say it, don't listen to Bull.
Tyvis, he brings up the read option. Obviously, they ran it with Josh Dobbs. Josh Dobbs is faster than Clayton Tune.
Is he? You know how much? Because Clayton Tune ran a 4.64.
Which is decent.
Yeah.
Josh Dobbs ran a 4.4 something.
Did he really?
He did.
Dang.
But to his point, Gardner Minshew, you know what he ran?
4.8.
4.97. You know, Joey B ran a 4.9 also. I wouldn't have thought. I thought he'd be better than that. Maybe.
You know,
Joe Burrow ran a 4.9.
Yeah.
I thought he ran like a 4.7.
Yeah, he got better game speed than with his show.
But still, Clayton Tune is certainly faster than Gardner Minshew.
Yeah.
So I would think they would still keep that as part of their offense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's gonna be heavy.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's gonna be a very simple game plan. It's a rookie quarterback. You don't want to overwhelm them, so you're gonna throw some stuff in there to throw some wrinkles in there. Obviously, they're gonna do it because they seen the Ravens and the Colts do it, and then it hurt the Browns when they did it. So obviously, you put it in your game plan, especially if you got a quarterback that's willing and able to do that. But I don't think it's going to be a huge part. But how you stop that is that you have to have your defensive end, because usually when they do this, they let the tackle go up and they read off of the defensive end. Mm-hmm. If the defensive end crash down, you pull it and you run. If he comes and attacks the quarterback, he gives it. So in this situation, how you do it is you got the defensive end has to come down on the line, put his hand on the tackle like that, and he got to stand there and read it. Or it's 2 ways. You could do it like that and read it that way and then chase the ball. Or you can have it assigned to where you'll have that defensive end crash down and you'll have the linebacker scrape over the top and take the quarterback. So it kind of kills the whole play.
Right.
Let me give you Tyvis. That was a nice assessment. I like how you played that. But there are another way he didn't mention how you stop that.
The great defensive line of the Cleveland Browns.
So what you do is when they run read option, you take it as disrespect. You say your defensive end, no matter what, I don't care if he hands the ball off. You go put your helmet in that quarterback's chest and try to destroy him. They won't run it no more. Like, if you run a read option and you think you're going to get cute, I'm not even going to play that run. Maybe we'll have somebody else assign that. But I want you to run through that quarterback. I want you to, they may give you 15, but this ain't college. They won't eject you. We'll take that 15, but I guarantee there won't be no more of that.
That's the question that's going to be asked right after you say that as a coach. You got my fine?
I got that.
Oh, it's happening then. It's on.
Like
that's the number one thing. You pay my fine?
Hey, run
for sure. I got
you. Here's the thing. They may be up in arms. I've never understood why people don't do this.
Because they don't want to get fined.
Because
you can't touch the quarterbacks like that. You blast that quarterback like that.
I thought he had the ball.
Well, that's 15 yards and an automatic first down. So not only are you hurting, you're hurting the defense as well.
I'm cool with that.
You're
fine with that.
Especially if you had just so happen. If we know you're gonna do that, let's do it on 3rd and 20. Let's do it on 3rd. Let's get an automatic first down.
They ain't running no read.
Why not? They're gonna run straight through. We're gonna get an automatic first down.
They're not running that.
3rd and 20. Let's run it.
Let's take a look at this.
That's what I do.
Tag board froze.
Oh,
got a frozen tag board.
But here's the thing. Nobody wants to put their starting quarterback in harm's way. No, especially during the end of the season. So if they're coming up there,
they ain't got nothing to play for.
There's really nobody on Arizona's offense that scares you.
Marquise Brown.
He scares you?
Speed always scares you.
All right.
If you line up against Marquise Goodwin, you wouldn't be scared?
I would because I'm slow, but I'd probably just tackle him. But I probably couldn't.
You couldn't catch him.
Yeah. No. But the Browns have corners that can play with him. You look at, James Conner is hurt. He's not playing. He's on the IR. He's their best back. Mm-hmm. They've been going with this young guy, DeMercado. I think it's Amari DeMercado.
Ain't the name Eddie?
Eddie?
Yeah, something like that.
No, DeMercado.
I think it's Amari.
Is it Amari?
I can't.
I know who you're talking about.
It's Amari DeMercado.
Didn't you just pick him up in fantasy?
I did pick him up.
Someone we could ask about that is Darren Urban, who's been covering the Cardinals for
Darren's
24 years now, and Darren is ready to join us to end this wild debate of how to pronounce DeMercado's first name. What's up, Darren?
Is it Amari, Darren?
How are you guys doing? It is Amari DeMercado.
Yeah, it was interesting as James Conner got hurt in the game against the Bengals, and actually James Conner was having a great game. He was really that game might have been different had he not gotten hurt. Don't you think? Because Conner was playing, I thought, really well. I was watching that game. I thought Conner was having a hell of a game that day, and then they couldn't run once he got hurt. Is that fair?
James Conner was having a great season when he got hurt. Probably better than a lot of people thought he might. So, yeah, I mean, I think his loss has absolutely impacted this team. I mean, obviously this roster isn't where they want it to be right now. They're waiting for Kyler Murray to come back. There's a lot of things in flux with this team right now, but it's clear that once James Conner got hurt, that changed some things. Now, I do think Amari DeMercado has shown some flashes. He's an undrafted rookie, but he's shown patience. He's shown burst when he needs to. But right now, this team is missing in a lot of areas, and part of it is the quarterback play. Josh Dobbs just got traded yesterday, but ultimately, this is the storyline of this season has always been, what is it going to look like when Kyler comes back, and waiting for Kyler to actually make his return. So we're close to that point. We'll see what happens.
Is there any chance the Cardinals surprise all of us and go with Kyler this week, or are you 100% certain it's going to be Clayton Tune?
I don't know if I'd say I'm 100% certain. The way it's kind of worked out with this whole thing, when Kyler Murray returned to practice, he got all the clearances that he needed to get to, but Jonathan Gannon was waiting for Kyler to say, okay, I'm comfortable enough in my rehab now that I can get back on the field. And obviously, as we've seen the last couple of weeks, the health, I mean, he hasn't had a practice designation the last 2 or 3 practices in terms of needing an injury designation. Now, obviously, he had one for the game, so he could stay on the PUP list. But, I mean, we're right on the cusp now of him potentially playing. And I think at this point, the question becomes, does he come back this week or does he wait the one more week? And they have until next Wednesday, the Wednesday after the Browns game, to put him on the active roster. Do you wait one more week, give him a couple more days and another week of practices before you put him on the field, which would be home against the Falcons? And I think right now that's the question. Their offensive coordinator, Drew Petzing, and I know you guys know him from his time with the Browns, Petzing was making the point, like, at this point, when you add in like what he missed in OTAs and everything over the summer, he's just getting to what it would have been if he had gone to training camp on July 28th. to this point in his practice. So I could understand if he or everybody else would want him to have maybe one more week of prepping in this brand new offense, which he had never played in until 2 weeks ago, before he gets in a game.
You know, we kind of have I wouldn't say a similar situation of a quarterback being injured and not really knowing when he's going to be back. I think it's a little different because you guys obviously don't have the expectations. And like you said, he hasn't even been in this new system. In terms of Kyler Murray, you know, in the previous years, there was always, you know, I don't know if the entire fan base embraced him. He started off one year very well, kind of, faltered in the playoffs. What is the temperature in the fan base on Kyler Murray, especially after getting a big deal coming off the ACL?
I think there's still some in the fan base that are wondering about what he can be and all that stuff. But I also think there's a lot of intrigue right now because the way things ended with the Cliff Kingsbury era and how that was all going, I think there's a lot of people that want to see Kyler in a different offense and see what that actually means. It's not like Kyler played poorly when he was playing. He made the Pro Bowl a couple times. He was the reason that when they were winning a lot of the times that they won. The offense was a little disjointed. I don't know if it totally necessarily worked on the NFL level with what Cliff Kingsbury was trying to do. And Kyler made a lot of plays all by himself. So people, I think, want to see him in more of a structure and kind of see where this goes. Obviously, does he have a ton around him at this point where you're like, it's not like Brock Purdy in San Francisco where he's got all these playmakers around him at this point. That'd be another reason potentially to wait another week for James Conner, because I think James Conner is eligible to come back after the Browns game. So you mentioned, I heard you guys talking about Marquise Brown.
Yeah.
He's had a great year. It doesn't look like it in the stats. Unfortunately, Dobbs and he weren't able to hook up very often with Dobbs struggling down the field. But I think Marquise Brown has played an excellent season, and Michael Wilson is a really good rookie receiver. So what Kyler looks like when he's put in this offense, I think everybody's very curious to see what that looks like.
Darren, we were sitting here talking about, Arizona's defense, and it seemed like y'all got rid of a lot of good guys. Like y'all got rid of Murphy. Last year y'all traded the linebacker / safety to the Giants.
Simmons.
Simmons, Isaiah Simmons. Who is the impactful guys on the defense now, and who gives the Browns a real threat and the Browns should be worried about?
Well, I think it's safe to say that they're trying to get to a point where their defense is the whole is better, is more the sum of the parts is more than the individual parts. I mean, you still have Budda Baker, who's one of the best safeties in the league, and I think he still is, and he's been back a couple weeks now from a bad hamstring injury. And they also have Jalen Thompson in the secondary as safety, who's a very good player. They don't have a whole lot of names. They're kind of trying to do the pass rush by committee thing. They moved Zaven Collins from inside to outside linebacker. There's a lot of young guys who, quite frankly, aren't going to scare a whole lot of people from the outside, and I understand that. And they've had to piecemeal their defensive line together, and they were doing that anyways, and then they lost two of their top guys to season-ending injuries. So I think right now their defense is trying to work mostly on scheme and effort alone. I've been impressed with that part of it. They have not let up very much. I mean, do they have the manpower? I don't know about that, but I do think they've made some strides in terms of the effort and the want to as games go on. I mean, it would be real easy for a lot of these guys to be mentally struggling right now with as bad as the record is, and you really haven't seen that in the games. I think they have lost games in most part because their roster just isn't as good as most teams that they play.
Darren, I'm curious about the Trey McBride, who, was a guy that people have been talking about for a couple of years, and he had a big breakout game this past week. I think he had like 15 targets, 10 catches, close to 100 yards and a touchdown, I think, somewhere around there. If you're a fantasy football guy, are you buying in on Trey McBride the rest of the year, or is this a one-game anomaly? What do you think about him?
Well, I mean, Trey McBride, second-round pick last year, hasn't gotten a ton of run because Zach Ertz is here, but now Zach Ertz is on IR. And I think this is kind of the changing of the guard to get to Trey McBride. He was arguably the best tight end in college when he was coming out that season, although not a lot of people knew about him at Colorado State. He's probably a better receiver than blocker, but he's gotten better at blocking, and I do think he's got a lot of talent as a receiver. And I don't know if he's going to give you 10 catches for 100 yards every week, but I do think he's got the chance to be a very effective tight end, and now getting that chance with Ertz on the sideline, I think that's going to happen. I think we're getting to that point where the Cardinals need to look at some of these guys and see, McBride's a guy who came in before the current GM, Monty Ossenfort. This is where you want to kind of see where all these guys are, if they're part of your future, or what else you want to do, because obviously the Cardinals have a ton of draft picks and high draft picks next year.
Darren, let me ask you this question. Usually here in Cleveland, we always come from our perspective of whether we view a team as a beatable team or a winnable game. When you guys have Clayton Tune at quarterback, is making his first start, do you believe that with him at the helm, this is a winnable game for you guys? What is the thought process when you're coming to play Cleveland? Do you feel like this is a winnable game, and the Cardinals in the locker room, they feel like they can win this game?
I mean, I don't know about that. I mean, I would assume that every player would go into a game thinking they can win this game. I mean, this team did beat the Cowboys earlier this year with essentially the same cast of characters. Now, Tune, if he ends up playing, which obviously a lot of people are kind of making that jump right now. I mean, he's a rookie. He hasn't played in a regular season game yet, save for one pass. And, that's a tall order, especially against a defense like Cleveland's and a defensive line like Cleveland's. But he did get a lot of run in the preseason. He didn't look too bad there. I think at this point it's a week-to-week process. Whether they feel like they can beat Cleveland, I would assume so. It's a road game, a difficult road game. But I've also seen enough times, and I kind of saw it with the Cowboys game, like, I would almost reverse that. Like, where's Cleveland's head going into this game? Are they assuming that they're just going to roll over a Cardinals team that has one win and a rookie quarterback? Those are the kinds of games that can change on a dime.
Last thing, Darren, we were talking about this before you came on. The Browns defense overall has been really good, but both the Ravens and Colts had a lot of success running read option. And obviously with Lamar Jackson, he's a great, but Gardner Minshew's no great athlete. In fact, Clayton Tune ran a way better 40 time than Gardner Minshew did. The Cardinals have run a lot of read option. While Tune may not be as good an athlete as Josh Dobbs, he's still a decent athlete. Do you expect to see that remain part of the game plan?
I would expect it to remain part of the game plan if Tune plays, but I at the same time, it's really hard to get a handle on what this could look like or how it could change with a brand new quarterback. I mean, like I said, Tune's only played one snap, and it was a fake punt on a fourth down. So you don't really know exactly what they're going to want to do. But I do agree that Clayton Tune is a pretty good athlete. I do think he can run that play if that's what they ask of him. He's a big guy, so it's doable. Obviously, as you guys were saying before I came on, you are exposing your quarterback to harm's way, but that's kind of where you are as an offense, and I do think that'll be in the game plan, yes.
By the way, one last thing. I was watching the end of the Cardinals-Ravens game because obviously we were hoping the Ravens would lose, and the Cardinals were making that kind of wacky comeback at the end. I think that onside kick that the Cardinals got, the second, they had to do it twice, second one obviously failed. I don't know if anybody else saw this. Obviously you did, Darren, and I did. That first onside kick by Matt Prater that the Cardinals recovered was one of the best onside kicks I've ever seen in my life. Right? I mean that was amazing.
It was executed really well, and we all know that it's really hard to get an onside kick. In fact, I believe that's the only successful onside kick in the NFL this year.
Yeah, not a surprise.
It's been so hard to do. So, look, it would have been nice had they been a little bit closer at the end, because the first three quarters were a slog last week for the Cardinals, and obviously they're hoping to play a little bit better overall in Cleveland.
Darren, thank you, man. We appreciate the time. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.